What do you think about God? What do you think, bro?
What do I think? You've opened up a can of worms.
I imagine I have. Yeah.
I don't really talk about this kind of thing publicly much. Just because
it's loaded.
It is very loaded. But at the same time, I just think that the way I was raised and the people that I know from that tend to think that there's only one right answer, and every other answer, even if it has the slightest variation of difference, is just wrong. And you go somewhere not so great because of that. However, from my experience with that, which I'm not even knocking. Okay, so just with that experience, like I grew up going to a private Christian school, was in church every Sunday, basically, just very much in that world. And I think that upbringing did a lot for me. I mean, even from a young age, I was always like, why? Anytime you tell me anything, I'd be like, why? That was just like an ongoing joke. My mom would always say, like,
just curious.
Yes, always. And I always questioned, like, not in a curious way. It wasn't always taken as curious. It was taken as like challenging. And because I wanted to, like, if you told me you're not allowed to do this, I'd be like, okay, well, why not? Like, it's just, I've never just taken something for just face and like just completely accepted it. Even if I don't verbally question, in my head I'm questioning. I'm like going a little bit deeper. And so with that being said, how I grew up, like, I questioned a lot of things, and I didn't always get answers to those questions. And now in my adult life, I think that looking back on what I was taught in a lot of ways is very, like, it's fundamental on who I am today. And I am very appreciative of all of that, because I think that, you know, the morals and the sense of right and wrong, the sense of how to treat other people, how to just kind of navigate this life and, you know, live a perfect life essentially, and like, you know, have a relationship with something that is higher than yourself. I think that that's all very powerful and true to me, you know. But in my adult life, exploring, you know, once you get into just the vastness of the universe and, you know, quantum physics, all these things that are just not explained in simple form. And I think that the way that I grew up, I was told everything on a very simple level. It's parables, it's things that are, you know, it's not as detailed and intricate through a, you know, more scientific lens. And I think that they can go together, but I think that there's just such a divide that this is taken so literally that it leaves no room for this. And so, and do you get what I'm saying by this and that kind of?
To be clear, it sounds like this is being taken so literally. You're talking about the stories and parables from religion, right?
Yes.
Right. It's funny that you say this, because like my current analysis about like society at large and people, because a lot of people mostly do identify as atheistic, or even at the very least, like, I'm spiritual, but organized religion I have qualms with.
Right.
So I kind of see what you're saying, but inverted. Like, I feel like science is the very rigid way that's very like objective and measurable, and like it's all about putting things in a box.
Okay.
Where the stories and parables are supposed, but see, it sounds like there's validity to what you're saying though, and I'll come back to it. I think that the stories in a structure like the Bible are supposed to be taken a little more metaphorically and loosely, but there is some sort of feature for what it does for the person to take them literally,
right,
and to take them as gospel, and to act as if. So there, and also it goes back to this thing like the problem of complexity and the issue of limited attention and perception. It's like, if you were to break down what God means in scientific terms, like fully, you could probably go for talk for 72 hours straight and still like scratch the surface.
Yeah.
So there's some utility in it being a simplified thing. Just God, this is what we're talking about, and then there's all that comes with it, and you just know that just from that one 3-letter word.
Yeah.
So anyway, to come back to the validity of voice, it sounds like your experience was people that were taking those things literally to a degree to where maybe they exuded toxic behavior as sort of like a side effect of that literal interpretation, of that dogmatic adoption of it. Right. That sounds a little bit like what you're getting at.
Yeah, and also something that you said, so I agree with that. And what you said too about this side being boxed in, that makes sense too. I think that there, again, everything in life has to have this like perfect balance, right? And that you have to have, this can honestly open up your mind to possibilities. And this can just kind of, guide the way that you navigate life and how you can perceive the world, basically, and how you treat people, all this stuff. But with this, I actually thought about it the other day. As humans, like, we're so all about ourselves, the same reason why people are so okay with, killing animals, destroying the earth, like all these things that are, we only care about ourselves, basically. And anything else is like a side, like if we, deforestation, like pollution, like all this stuff, it's just like, oh, well, as long as I have my, Happy Meal and I'm driving my car, like I'm fine, I'm going to my job. Like there's not a lot of like consideration for other things. And so taking that same mindset, I was thinking about this. I don't think humans could really, as a society, really grasp the idea of God unless they pictured him as a man. Like, and like this like idea of like, oh, a man did all this, and like this is how God is, because we can relate to that, which makes sense. Like it's just the most simplified version, because it's like, if God is like this man, this is all the qualities that he would have. And it's like, personified in a human form. So it's like we can grasp that, rather than like what you're saying, this, if you were to say it like in scientific terms, you're like, and like not even touching the surface. But if you can translate it this, then it's like, oh, that makes sense. Yeah.
Well, I think there's something there with, there's a lot of things that came up from you saying that. I have to pick which direction I want to go in. In fact, the direction I was about to go in, I don't think was that interesting. But I guess what I was going to say is about the seeing God as a man sort of thing. I mean, again, this is this sort of rigid, personified version that there is utility into simplifying it to that for people that need that simplification. And I think that maybe not necessarily fully scientific terms, but more non-secular philosophical terms, I think the metaphorical reason God is personified as a man is because of the whole philosophical divide of seeing order is masculine and chaos is feminine. And God isn't necessarily all, because order can become tyrannical if there's too much of it, and chaos can be good if you implement it properly. It's not good and bad. It's just they're different. Like entropy is probably the scientific term for chaos, and then form and things are order. But and again, this is a very simplified thing, but I think that God, in philosophical non-secular terms, is often pointing to order that is properly balanced and is developed across time to represent the order that is good, like from a human judgment point of view, but it's some sort of agreed upon judgment, like that which brings things into being and makes them manifest in things, like humans and
right.
but again, both are, but God is not the full, like, yeah, this is such a complicated thing. And it is like, I'm fucking up by trying to put it into words.
Right.
Really.
It's so hard because even I'm thinking like, I don't know. Keep going. It's just like, how do you even scratch the surface of this topic?
Right.
Without getting.
It's fun to try. It's fun to make a mess.
I think the best way to answer it at all is just with questions, you know? Like, it's because...
Why?
Why? Have you seen that Vine?
No.
It's like this like pastor, and he's like, why?
Oh, no, why? I haven't seen that.
It's on Vine.
Yeah, I'll go download Vine. Check that out.
R.I.P. No, but, I mean, it's just... I think the more we realize we don't know, the more fascinating it is to continue to question the things that we possibly could have some sort of understanding. Because, you know, do we even really, what is like truth anyway? You know, what is facts? Like,
yeah, that's a big one.
Yeah. Like, have you seen that? I mean, did not mean to do that. Have you seen like those videos of cake, but it doesn't look like cake?
Yes.
It's kind of like that. It's like, oh yeah, that's an Air Force One cake. Like, how can you really, just because something appears one way doesn't mean it is that way.
Right. Mm-hmm.